Welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to Fallout. Today we're going to be taking a look at the chems in Fallout 4, and we're going to be ranking them in our tier list over here. So we've got a few different categories for the different chems that you can take in Fallout 4. First up, we have the worst trip ever. These are just kind of garbage chems that you don't really want to take. The mid-tier medics, nothing way crazy there, but they might be useful in one situation or another. The outlawed in Australia tier, these are where you get into kind of the fun chems. And just a little side note about Fallout history, the reason why a lot of the names in Fallout are the way that they are, like you have Jet, you have Medics, you have Psycho, is because specifically they weren't allowed to call them what they wanted to call them in Australia, so they changed the name so that they could actually be okay. That's why we have the Outlaw in Australia. Originally Medics was supposed to be morphine, Jet was going to be meth, and I believe Psycho was going to be PCP, but I could be wrong about that. That might have been a mixture of drugs and maybe didn't actually have a real name. Then we have the Wasteland Delight, something that's actually pretty fun, and then we have the Top Shelf, something that is very good to take. So we're just going to go right down the list of these, because as you can see, we have quite a few of the same type of icons across all of the Fallouts, because they reuse a lot of them for this, and a lot of them are mixed chems, so it does kind of make sense in that regard. First up, we have a Dickdoll, and a Dickdoll makes it so that you can cure all addictions, which is pretty good, especially in Fallout 4, where there's basically like one doctor in the whole wasteland, and that's in like Diamond City. There are technically other doctors throughout the wasteland, but that one's like the one that I go to. It can be kind of a pain if you do get addictions from drugs throughout Fallout 4, because you do get a lot of different chems in Fallout 4, so you can take a lot of them. And keeping a Dickdoll on your person is actually pretty nice. For an overall chem, I think I'd put this one in the Wasteland Delight. Funny enough, it actually gets rid of all of your good times, I guess, with your chems. But if you're suffering from all the addictions from the chems, then you're just naturally going to have to either take more of them, which you may not have on you, or you're going to have to get yourself cleaned up so that you can actually then take more chems afterwards. So a Dickdoll is going to go right up there. Our next one is called the Agile Sludge Pack. This one is found in Far Harbor, and this one makes it so you get AP recovery, so action point recovery, faster based on the amount of rads that you have. The more rads you have, the faster your action points recover from this. As somebody who basically never uses VATS in Fallout 4, I'm never going to be using this. VATS can be pretty strong on like an unarmed or a melee build. I think that unarmed and melee builds are sometimes the least interesting builds in Fallout 4 though. They can be really fun in some of the other games, like in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. I find unarmed and melee to actually be quite fun. In Fallout 4, not so much, although VATS is very strong with those builds. So I'm going to put this one in the Outlawed in Australia tier, although it's definitely not a chem for me. I would basically never end up using this. Antibiotics are really, really good in the survival difficulty, because this cures all illness. So this one is basically like top shelf if you're at the start of the game in the survival mode. If you're not playing that and you're just playing the game regularly, this still can actually be really good, because the illnesses can deal damage to you over time, and I believe they deal % health damage. At least it seems that way into the early game. Maybe even into the later game it does too. And in the early game where you don't have perks and don't have a lot of either chems or food to be eating so that you can get your health back, it can actually drain you of resources fairly fast. And having antibiotics is really, really nice to have. So I'd put them on the top shelf just for the convenience of them, because I hate taking the damage over time in the early game. In the late game, it doesn't really matter, because you're probably going to have so much health that you're not affected by it, or so much healing that you don't care, or you're just going to have perks like solar powered to where you could just keep healing yourself over time, or the final perk of Life Giver to where you're just going to heal yourself over time and be perfectly fine. So it does fall off later, and it would probably go down to like the mid-tier medics once you're getting to the mid and late game. Early game though, I'd say it's top shelf, so I'm going to keep it up there. Then we have the Berry Mentats. This is one of many Mentats. This one gives you +5 intelligence, which is a lot of intelligence, and highlights all living targets for 480 seconds or 8 minutes in total. The highlighting living creatures can be useful. It depends on what creatures you're around, where in the area you are, and what level you are when you're using this, because if you're high level, you may not care. If you're low level, you might care a lot, because you don't want to just stumble into a Yaogwai or something. The +5 intelligence is really nice though, because intelligence does determine how much XP you get, as well as it also makes it so computer hacking is much easier, meaning that if you have a particularly difficult computer, then popping something like the Berry Mentats can be really useful in those situations. This is only going to be useful if you have low to medium intelligence. If you have very high intelligence or maxed out intelligence, this isn't really going to help you that much, but it is still kind of cool to have. So I'm going to put this one into the I think I'm going to put it into the mid-tier Med-X. I think it's fine enough. I honestly don't favor intelligence a whole lot in Fallout 4, although it is really good for the XP gain, which is nice. So if you're going to be using it for that, I would say it's much better. For hacking computers, it can be kind of useful, but that's not always a necessary skill. Most of the time, it's really not necessary. It's just for extra gear or to get through an area a little bit quicker. So that can be kind of useful. Up next, we have the Buff Jet. Buff Jet is a mix between Jet and Buffout, which is pretty strong. Both those chems are actually really good. Buff Jet gives you +3 strength, +3 endurance, and +65 maximum HP, as well as +35 maximum action points. And it also slows down time for 15 seconds. This is basically a go-to chem if you're in a struggle. This one is really going to help you out. +3 strength can be great, especially if you're doing a melee or an unarmed build where strength actually does matter. It can also be useful just for carrying extra things around. +3 endurance is going to give you even more HP overall, so you can tank through even more. That maximum HP is awesome because that gives you maximum HP immediately. So that way you can potentially survive things like poison or damage over time effects like fire. That can be really good. Maximum action points can be useful if you need to run or if you're using a VATS build. And then the slowing down time is just the strongest effect in the game. It is and basically has been since it was introduced in Fallout New Vegas. It's one of the best things in the game. So this one is going to go right up to the top shelf. I think it's one of the best chems. And if you have Buffout and Jet and you want to mix these together, by all means do that. You might as well. There's no real downside to doing that other than I guess you're losing out if you have a lot of either of those and you plan on selling them. But even so, this just frees up some extra weight for you to take if nothing else. Then we have regular Buffout. Regular Buffout is also quite good. This gives you +2 strength, +2 endurance, +50 maximum HP for 300 seconds or 5 minutes. Regular Buffout's also really good. It's not as good as the mixed versions of the Buffout, so I'm going to put it in the Wasteland Delight, but this one's still really useful, especially if you're dying and you need extra HP, or if you just need extra carry space. Both of those it's really, really good for, and even more so if you're not playing on the survival difficulty where you can still fast travel. Pop this, grab whatever you can that's, almost your maximum carry weight, then fast travel away. That's really nice for storing even more stuff than you already would on your character, so that's pretty awesome. Up next is Buff Tats. This is where you mix Buffout and Mentats together. You do need to have regular Mentats to have this, not things like the berry Mentats, which we've talked about. We will talk about the other Mentats as we go along because there's quite a few of them. Buff Tats gives you +3 strength, +3 perception, +3 endurance, +65 maximum HP for 480 seconds or 8 minutes. This one's pretty nice. The extra strength is good, the extra endurance is good, the extra health is good compared to regular Buffout, so this is all a bonus from regular Buffout. +3 perception is okay, it's not really necessary. Perception is a little bit better in Fallout 4 than it has been in some of the other games, but it's still not an amazing skill. It's still not one that I would prioritize in a pinch, but this can ultimately save you, so I'm also going to put this one on the top shelf. Buff Tats is also pretty nice. Next chem is called Comex. Comex is a very interesting chem. So this one gives you +3 perception, +3 agility, which are both kind of cool. The main thing that makes this one crazy is that you get double sneak attack damage for 480 seconds or 8 minutes. So if you hit a sneak attack, you're already doing double damage by default, potentially even more so if you do it with melee or unarmed, and even more so if you want to stack this with the perk Ninja. Ninja is already pretty busted in my opinion, being just one of the strongest perks in the entire game, which can already triple your amount of damage on a sneak crit, and then if you double it again, and I believe that these are multiples of one another, not additives, so that would make it 6 times extra damage on sneak hits. Or if you're doing melee and unarmed, that would be 20 times extra damage on sneak hits, which is a lot. That is really, really crazy. Melee and unarmed can already be pretty strong. This makes them even stronger, so this one's also going to go to the top shelf. There is going to come a point where this is just very redundant in your build. As soon as you get to like the late game and your character is completely maxed out with all the damage perks, this really isn't going to be necessary, but if you want to stack it on there just to one-shot anything, I guess you can do that too, and that could be kind of funny, but you're already going to be doing a lot of damage at that point anyway. Our next one is the Comex Silk. This one can be found in Nuka World, or it's available in the Nuka World DLC. This one works basically the same as the regular Comex, where this one gives you +3 agility, +3 perception, and +3 luck, as well as it does give you double sneak crit damage for 8 minutes as well. This one is just better than the regular one. Adding extra luck on top of there is really nice too. So this one's also going to go into the top shelf. It's not necessary because this one's already kind of overkill, Throwing this one on is even more overkill, so okay, cool, you can do it, but it's a bit much at that point. Next up, we've got Daddy-O. Daddy-O gives you +3 perception, -2 charisma, and +3 intelligence for 10 minutes. This one can be kind of nice for different skill checks. Extra perception's okay, extra intelligence is kind of cool, minus charisma doesn't really matter unless you're trying to do speech checks or something. So this one's fine. I honestly never take Daddy-O though. I think it's just kind of an okay chem. I'm going to put this one in the mid-tier medics. It's fine enough. Then we've got Day Tripper. Day Tripper gives you -2 strength, +3 charisma, +3 luck for 5 minutes. I really hate giving up strength with this. Strength is one of the best perks because I can carry around more stuff and I love hoarding things in these type of games. So that's already just a not selling point to me. Giving me +3 charisma can be useful for skill checks, and +3 luck again can be kind of useful for different things, but it's not one of my favorites. I'm going to put Day Tripper in the worst trip ever. It's just not one of my favorite chems in this game. If you're going for a pacifist run, then it's probably going to be top tier. Then we've got another sludge pack. This is the durable sludge pack. So this one gives you +25 damage resistance, and then that can be increased for the different amount of rads that you have. So you can go from 25, 50, 75, or 100 at 800 plus rads. This one's weird. This is a decent amount of damage resist that you could get, especially early on. Later on, it's going to be less useful, and if you have power armor, this one's not going to be as useful either. This also won't be useful if you have the ballistic weave stuff, so there is those downsides, and in Fallout 4, you don't want to have a whole lot of rads, because rads affect your total amount of HP. So if you're at 800 rads, you're going to be at 20% HP. So having extra damage resist on top of that is pretty nice, as well as you will probably be gaining rads throughout your playtime in Fallout 4, but still, I wouldn't recommend taking this one. The other one you could kind of get away with the extra action points in a VATS build. That could be kind of useful, but in this, where it's damage resist, I would rather just have total max HP over damage resist, so I'm going to put this one in the worst trip ever, too. It's just not a favorite of mine. Next one is another Far Harbor chem. This one is called Firebelly. So Firebelly makes it so that you do extra damage based on the total amount of health that you have. So if you're at a lower amount of health, you'll deal more damage. This starts out at 10% extra damage, all the way up to 30% extra damage if you're at 25% health or lower. This is total max health. So if you are under the effect of huge amounts of radiation, you can stack potentially all of these on top of one another. I think that's kind of the goal that they had with this one. I would say this one's the best though, because you're probably going to be getting beat up during a fight anyway, and doing more damage throughout the fight is pretty useful. This one lasts for 8 minutes. The last chem we talked about lasts for 12 minutes, if I didn't already say that. This one's pretty decent though. I would put this one into the Wasteland Delight. This one's actually pretty nice. I'm still probably not going to be taking it over Psycho. You could stack this with Psycho if you want. Next chem we have is Fury. Fury gives you -5 perception, which is a lot of minus to perception, but perception isn't always necessary for a lot of builds, especially with this, where it gives you +50% melee damage, and it also gives you +25 damage resistance for 8 minutes. This one on a melee build is absolutely top shelf. This one is really, really good, because who cares about perception if you're doing a melee build? It likely won't matter at all. And the damage resist is nice, but it's mostly that 50% bonus damage. That is a huge buff in damage. If you're not going with a melee build though, then this one is the worst trip ever. And since I don't like using melee in this game, I never use Fury. But if you are going to be using it, it can fluctuate a lot. I guess I'll put it up on top shelf because that's the best case scenario for it. But again, that is only in a melee build. If you're not going to the melee build, just disregard Fury altogether. You can sell it for extra money, and that's going to be what it's useful for. Then we have another Mentat. This is great Mentats. This gives you +5 charisma, and it makes it so your buying price is 10% lower, as well as your selling price is 10% higher than that. So this one sounds pretty good, and if you're doing a specific run where you need to get so many caps, or you're trying to get to a total amount of caps, this one can be kind of nice. The main problem with Fallout 4 is that caps are just not worth a whole lot in this one, just because it's so easy to get caps. The game already gives you a ton of chems that you can sell. They also give you a lot of bullets if you're not playing on the survival difficulty, like missiles and mini nukes that you can sell. So you get plenty of stuff from there. You can also do the fusion core trick, where if you run a fusion core almost all the way out, you can sell it for full price, which is good. You can do a lot of stuff for extra money in Fallout 4. So this one is going to go to the mid-tier medics. It can be kind of useful in the early game and then fall off pretty hard in the late game where you just don't need money anymore. Our next chem is the Herbal Anodyne. This one is kind of interesting. This one makes it so you resist insomnia and weakness for 60 minutes. That can be kind of good on the survival difficulty. If you're not playing survival difficulty, this one really isn't going to matter that much to you. Even on survival, I rarely take this one. I usually have it with me, but I almost never use it. So I'm going to put this one in like the mid-tier medics. It's okay enough. Then we have the herbal antimicrobial. This one increases your resistance towards infections and parasites for 60 minutes. That's also kind of useful. I would say that's a little bit more useful. Parasites usually aren't a huge deal, but this can be kind of a little bit more useful, so I'll put this one in the outlawed in Australia tier. And then our last one of these is the herbal stimulant. This one resists fatigue and lethargy for 60 minutes. This one I also basically never use, so I'm going to put it into the mid-tier medics. It's okay to have on you. They don't really come with much of a downside, but they're just not that incredible overall. Then we've got some more jet stuff. So first up we have regular jet. This slows down time for 10 seconds. Jet is really strong in Fallout 4. This is the same as Turbo in New Vegas, which is the strongest chem in that game. And this one is no exception to that. It is one of the best things that you can do. It makes it so that you can do a lot more damage in a shorter amount of time. It's really good for closing distances if you're with a melee build or you want to go with a shotgun build. This one is really, really good. So just even regular jet, I would say, is like top tier in this game, which is kind of funny because in the other games, jet is not that useful. Then we have jet fuel. This one's a bit different. This one increases your total max AP by plus 35, and it also increases your action point recovery rate at 10 action points per second for 8 minutes. This one would probably be pretty good on a VATS build. Unfortunately for me, I don't ever use VATS builds, so this is just going to be something I sell. But if you are going to the VATS build, then this one is pretty nice because you just get more action points overall. So I'm going to put this one in the outlawed in Australia tier. We're going to have jet all over the place because we still have 2 more to talk about, but they'll be coming up later because our next one is the final syringe here, which is the Med-X. Med-X gives you plus 25 damage resist and 250 poison resist for 300 seconds. So that's 5 minutes. The extra damage resist is pretty nice for Med-X, but the poison resist is actually really good because early on into the mid game, poison enemies are very dangerous to you, especially if you're playing on like survival difficulty. This one I don't think is as good as it has been in other games, but it's still pretty decent, specifically for those poison enemies. So if you are having trouble with them, this one's probably going to go to the Wasteland Delight. I think I'm going to put it in the Outlawed in Australia, though, for an overall rating, because later on it's not as useful, and it is a little bit limited as to like what you can get value from it. Then we got Mentats, just regular old Mentats. These give you plus 2 perception, plus 2 intelligence for 5 minutes. They're fine enough. I'm going to actually put this in the mid-tier Mentats. Depends on what you're doing. They're okay. I usually just sell them for cash, but they're an alright chem overall. I don't think they're as incredible as some of the other Mentats that we have. Then we have the Mysterious Serum. So the Mysterious Serum gives you plus 5 strength and gives you plus 50 damage resistance, as well as it gives you minus 10 rads per second for 60 minutes. That can actually be pretty good. The Mysterious Serum is only part of a quest though, so there's a limited amount of mysterious serums you can get. I wouldn't really recommend you take this, but it's okay enough. I'm gonna put this definitely in the outlawed in Australia tier. Then we've got the Orange Mentats. Orange Mentats give you plus 5 perception and increase your VATS accuracy by 10% for 8 minutes. If you're going with the VATS build, this one's pretty good. Since I never go with the VATS build, I never use this and I just sell it for money. I'm going to put this in the outlawed in Australia though, because this one does at least go for a specific build and it is a little bit more useful than like buying and selling or just giving you plus 2 special stats on some stats that are okay enough. Then we have all of the psycho things because all of these go one after another. So very first up, we've got Overdrive. Overdrive gives you plus 25% more damage, which is really good, as well as it gives you plus 25% more crit chance for 8 minutes. If you're going with a VATS crit build, this one is really strong. If you're not going with that, it's still quite strong. So I'm going to put this one up into the top shelf. I think it's really good. It's really useful for just getting that extra damage out. Then we've got regular Psycho. This one also gives you plus 25% damage, as well as this one gives you plus 25 damage resistance. So you take less damage, you deal more damage. This one's really good. It's really good on just about any build that's not a pacifist build. So Psycho, also top shelf. Then we've got the Psycho Jet. This one is Jet plus Psycho mixed together, which gives you plus 25% more damage, plus 35 to your maximum AP, plus 35 damage resistance, and it slows down time for 15 seconds. This one is one of the best chems in the game, and it would go right up into top shelf as well. It is better than regular Psycho, and if you have Psycho and Jet, which are already top tier chems, you can combine them to make an even topper tier chem and get a lot out of it, which is pretty cool. Then we've got Psycho Buff. This one is Buffout plus Psycho. Those two are already really good chems, so this one gives you plus 3 strength, plus 3 endurance, plus 65 maximum HP, plus 25% damage for 8 minutes. Yeah, this one is also amazing. This one plus Jet is really good because then you have all of the bonuses. You get more damage, you take less damage, you slow down time, you can carry around more stuff, you can tank through more damage, you get more max HP immediately. Really, really good if you combine those. And then our last one is Psychotats. This one is Psycho plus Mentats. This one is still the plus 25% more damage, which is automatically going to be good. Plus 15 damage resistance. This one actually gives you the least amount of damage resistance, interestingly enough. And gives you plus 3 perception. This one I'm just going to put in Wasteland Delight. I think this is kind of a downgrade to just regular Psycho. I don't think it's as good as regular Psycho or Psycho Buff or Psycho Jet. Those are all better options than this, but this one's still decent if you just plan on mixing them together to save weight and sell it later. That's perfectly fine too. Next up we have Radix. Radix gives you radiation resistance for 3 minutes. That's pretty good. I'm going to put this in Wasteland Delight. Radiation can be an issue, especially if you're eating stuff or drinking from things in the early game, so popping Radix early can be really nice for that. This doesn't really come with any downsides, which is good. And yeah, it's just nice to have Radix on hand, but they do give you a lot of Radix, so you can sell these for a decent amount of money if nothing else. Then we have Radaway. Radaway takes away your rads over time. However, if you're playing on like the hardcore difficulty, this does come with a downside too, where it will slow you down or make you sleepy. So that can be kind of a bummer, but this is one of the few things that does get rid of your rads. So this one I would also put in the Wasteland Delight. It's super nice to have, but again, they give you way too much of the Radaway anyway. So you can sell it for money if nothing else. Next up is the Resistant Sludge Cocktail. This one is also found in Far Harbor. This one gives you plus 75 maximum HP, which is really good, and it gives you 150 rad resistance for 12 minutes. That's really nice. I'm going to put this one up on top shelf. Makes you tankier like Buffout, but you also get radiation resistance like Radix, so that's pretty cool. Next one we got is Skeeto Spit. Skeeto Spit gives you plus 25 maximum HP for 20 minutes. That's good. That's really nice. It's not as good as like Buffout is, but you can stack this with Buffout and have even more HP. So I'm going to put this in the Outlawed in Australia tier. I think it's pretty decent. Then we have the Smooth Operator. Smooth Operator is found in Nuka World, or can be obtained with the Nuka World DLC. This one makes it so you can buy lower and sell higher. You also get plus 3 charisma for it. This is basically the same as Daddy-O. It just has the jet icon to it, and I guess it doesn't come with the downside that Daddy-O has, but it's still a chem that I basically never use. And it's like mid-tier medics. Money doesn't really matter that much in Fallout 4, like I said. They give you so many chems, they give you so many bullets and stuff. You can just sell it and get a bunch of caps for it and you'll be fine. Next up we got good old stimpacks. These give you 30% maximum HP when you use them. This is healing over time. This can be pretty useful. You can stack these, which is good. On like the survival difficulty, these ones are a little bit less useful because they will make you more thirsty when you're using them. That can be kind of annoying, but stimpacks are always good. They're going to be a good source of healing in the early game. Again, unless you're playing survival, in which case food is always going to be like a better healing agent overall. So this one I'm going to put in Wasteland Delight. Nothing bad about stimpacks. They do give you quite a lot of stimpacks too, so you can always use these as money if nothing else, because stimpacks are worth a decent amount. Then we've got the Strong Sludge Cocktail, also from Far Harbor. This one gives you strength based on the amount of rads that you have, so you can go from plus 1 strength all the way up to plus 5 strength at 900 plus rads for 12 minutes. Plus 5 strength is actually pretty good for carrying around stuff, but you don't want to be at like 900 rads. It's just not worth it for this. So this one, I would say it's pretty bad. I'm going to put this in the worst trip ever. Again, extra strength is kind of cool, but for that much radiation and for that little gain, I mean, unless there's a lot of cool stuff, like I got a bunch of legendary items, I'm probably not going to be taking this and then trying to get a whole bunch of rads so that way I can at least move at a normal speed. Then we've got Ultra Jet. Ultra Jet increases your total maximum HP by 100, which is pretty crazy, and it also slows time for 15 seconds. That's really good. Slowing down time is fantastic. I don't think that this one has a permanent addiction in Fallout 4. I could be wrong about that. But in the other Fallout games in like New Vegas, Ultra Jet could be a permanent addiction to you, so it was really bad and you didn't want to take it. In this, though, I don't think that's the case, and this one is just a stronger version of Jet, especially if you want to be running faster because that takes action points, or if you're using a heavy VATS build, then it's really good too. Then we've got the Vault 81 Cure. This one gives you plus 50% maximum HP. That's pretty good, and it also cures your mole rat disease. That's some top shelf stuff right there, so I don't think we need to talk about that one anymore. Then we've got the X111 Compound. This one takes away 600 rads. That's pretty good. That's better than Radaway. It's just all around stronger than Radaway, but I believe that this one is limited. I don't think that you can get multiple of these. If you can, I am unaware of that. Maybe you can duplicate them somehow, but I'm going to put this one in the Wasteland Delight. It's pretty nice too. And then our final chem, although we do have 3 other ones that we're going to talk about because they don't really fit anywhere else, is the X-Cell. X-Cell gives you +2 to all of your special stats. So that's +2 perception, +2 strength, +2 endurance, +2 charisma, +2 intelligence, +2 agility, and +2 luck. This one can be kind of useful because you can get through skill checks with it, so that's pretty nice. I don't really see myself using this one a whole lot though. I find him every once in a while, but usually I just sell him for money. So the X-Cell I'm going to put in like Wasteland Delight. I think it's decent enough, but nothing way crazy. And then we move on to the miscellaneous items, which are kind of like Chem. So first up we have the Stealth Boy. The Stealth Boy makes so you can go invisible for 30 seconds, just like it can in most other games. That makes it so it's really, really strong, especially on a sneak build. Even more so on a sneak build, like a sneak melee build. This one is really, really strong on. So I'm going to put the Stealth Boy up into the top shelf. It's pretty nice to have, and it's kind of useful to have 1 or 2 of these, especially if you plan on pickpocketing people, then they're pretty nice. Then we've got the Robot Repair Kit. This one is added with the Mechanist DLC. So this one gives you plus 30% healing to your robot companion. This is a stimpack for robots. That's all it is. I usually don't use robot companions. I don't really use companions all that much in Fallout 4, but you do need to have it for that quest, so I'm going to put it in like the mid-tier medics. It's fine enough. And then our final one is the Railroad Stealth Boy. This is the same as a regular Stealth Boy, but this has 10 extra seconds to it, so it's 40-second duration in stealth rather than the 30 seconds. Also top shelf, very nice to have if you like sneaking around. If not, you're probably just going to be selling these. And here is all of the chems in Fallout 4. This one has been requested quite a bit. We're going to be doing some other Fallout 4 tier lists because I haven't done very many of them and they have been requested quite a lot recently. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you guys so very much for checking it out. Tell me what chems you would put where. I would love to hear that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.